Welcome to Outspoken here on All Sports Cleveland. I am your host, James Mastrucci. And, I've been gone for a couple weeks, but, I'm back now. The studio was having some issues, but I think everything's going to be working. The studio next door is working pretty good. I was over there before my show started. Did a little bit of trivia over there with Kramer and Josh. Kept my title of Trivia King, so kudos to me. We're going to start this show off with the big news of the day, the big local news, I guess. It's a couple days old, but you know what? We're going to keep going with it, and it's the Indians are no longer the Indians. They are now the Cleveland Guardians. And I know a lot of people were upset about this, but here's the thing. You've been given several years worth of warning that this is going to happen. Just using some foresight to realize that this change was going to come one point or another, you would have been able to figure this out. Not only was the writing on the wall once they moved on from Chief Wahoo, the fact of the matter is that they did announce that they were changing the name and that they were going through a process to find a new name. While some of it did seem a little bit just kind of, I don't know, trying to make themselves look better when they were getting some of the criticism for their name, and they kept delaying it and delaying it and delaying it. And it finally came out with this past weekend that they have a new name, which convenient timing with, the Olympics starting up. What's a great way to do some sort of news dump right when the Olympics are happening, and that's what they did. But anyways, before I get too far down that rabbit hole, let's keep going here. So they have the new name. It's the Guardians. I know some people are ecstatic about the name. Some people absolutely hate it. Some people hate it for reasons beyond it just being a name. Some people hate it because they view it as erasing history or trying to be politically correct or any sort of, I guess, ridiculousness that gets thrown out. It's a lot of people who hide behind fake names and cartoon avatars on the internet that are getting really mad about it. And that's really where their issues lie. But there are other names that were also considered, which is why some people didn't like the name. One name that had a lot of traction on the internet was Spiders, but I was listening to the Baseball Tonight podcast, Monday's episode, and they were talking about this very subject, and according to that podcast, the name Spiders was never really under serious consideration. And I know that a lot of people were kind of upset about that, and probably a lot of people did not really take that news all that well because that was the name that they were rooting for. They were rooting for Spiders. I'm glad they didn't go with Spiders for a couple reasons. One, I think the name's kind of ridiculous, even though, let's be real, most sports team names are ridiculous. I mean, in Cleveland, we have now the Guardians, the Cavaliers, and the Browns. Come on. Pittsburgh has the Pirates. How many Pirates are in Pittsburgh? I mean, I can go all day. Mike Polk Jr. Pointed out that there were two, the Reds are named after a color. We have two teams named after colors of socks. The Oakland team is the Athletics. I mean, let's be real here. Some of the sports team names are not necessarily all that creative, but I don't think Spiders is necessarily a good team name. And the team name Spiders is from an unrelated baseball franchise that was here before the future Guardians were here. So there's not necessarily a tie besides the fact that they play in Cleveland. So taking that into account, taking that into consideration, it seems like they kind of wanted to step away from that, go with a new identity. And as so many people wisely pointed out, the Guardian statues, which are part of the reference that they're making, it's a direct reference really to the statues on the Hope Memorial Bridge, but it is in the opening scene of the movie Major League, which is one of the best baseball movies of all time. So let's be real here. It was destined to be. It was in the cosmos back when they made that opening sequence of the movie. But as far as I'm concerned, the name change, the name is fine. Guardians is fine. It's not like, yes, I love this team name. It's so awesome. But it's not a team name I hate. It's not. There's a lot of team names I really didn't want. I didn't want like the Blues or the Blue Sox or the Broncos or the Spiders. So the name's fine. The jersey updates, the logo updates, they seem. I'll call it what it is. It seems kind of lazy. They're just slightly modifying what they already have, which I guess is okay if they're trying to get that carryover from fan support. But it just seems like, okay, we're just going to swap this out and change it like this, and we're going to call it a day. I mean, they could have gone for, they could have explored any option they could think of as far as jersey design is concerned. Because it's basically the same, they just changed the fonts a tiny bit. It's no longer as clear script as the word Indians is. It's a little bit more blocky for Guardians. And they did do the diamond lettering for the word Cleveland on the away jerseys instead of just the like Times New Roman block C that they're currently using, or whatever font that is. I call it Times New Roman because it looks pretty basic like Times New Roman. But overall, it's okay. It's not exciting. I mean, they could have explored different color options. They could have explored different jersey designs. They could have explored different ways to have different elements on the uniform. But it seems like they just did. If you've ever seen what some people do with some Browns jerseys, they get them restitched. It looks like they de-stitched and restitched the jerseys, kind of, which is okay. Again, not bad, but there's one aspect of this of the new rollout that they're having, which is completely atrocious, and that is this flying G baseball that looks straight out of 1995 clip art. What the heck is that thing? That is an absolutely awful logo, and I hope that they take the time between now and when they actually take the field and start producing merchandise to redo it, because, whew, it is bad. I understand they want to have baseball and they want to have like the G for Guardians and the little wings from the helmet, but maybe it's just me, maybe I'm the crazy one here, but why not have an actual Guardian, like the statue, involved in some capacity? But no, we got some G throwing a split finger fastball, and there was some elaborate explanation for the way it was designed, and it's based off of pitching and all this other stuff, and I'm like, if you have to explain a logo and design elements of that logo for it to make sense, you have failed as a logo designer. There's no arguing that fact. If you're at that point where you have to explain each little thing. I mean, remember when the Browns went and changed the uniforms, orange is oranger, and they were telling just everyone about how they had this new type of color scheme for them? That was ridiculous. That's what they were doing with this new logo for the now Guardians. They're explaining to you why they're doing it this way. And even the red on red of the G in the background, it wasn't great. Someone did a little bit of a Photoshop change that I commented on Twitter, but they just changed the background of the baseball to blue. So it was blue behind it with the red G's, and it looks so much better instead of the oversaturation of red. But that's where we are. We're at the point where we're breaking down logos and jerseys. I mean, I'm a big logo and jersey guy. I can sit here and talk about it all day, and I'll have a great time. I mean, one of my favorite things to do, one of my favorite things every week on the Baseball Tonight podcast, when Todd Radom comes on, he talks about forgotten jerseys and jersey elements and all these different aspects of it. I have his book about different types of baseball jerseys, so I can sit here and talk about them all day, but I'm sure you're not going to want to listen to that. But moving forward, I'm happy they changed the name. It's about time. It's way past the time for the name change. And looking at it from, I guess, a fan perspective, I'm not going to be out rushing to the stores to go get outfitted head to toe in Guardians gear, because it's not that I'm opposed to the name change. I'm obviously not. It's just like the name's okay. I can't imagine the merchandise being all that exciting either. I will say that if there is some cool gear that's made from a secondary producer of fan gear, so one of the local t-shirt places, if they produce something that's cool, I'll probably invest in that. But the only thing I can imagine myself buying at this point is maybe that Diamond C hat, because the Diamond C hat looks a lot better than the Block C that they've been rocking for, geez, they've been wearing that for a long time. And while I have two different Block C, I have three different Block C hats. While I have the three different Block C hats, they're fine, but it's mostly just an alternative to wearing a hat with Chief Wahoo on it, and that's really where I was. It's just like, okay, Chief Wahoo his time is gone. His time should have been gone a long time ago, but his time was gone, so I put his hats, everything with his face on it, in what I call retirement. So I've retired the Chief Wahoo gear, and I've been wearing the Block C hats. But now I might invest in the Diamond C. The Diamond C looked pretty cool. But it's more about the evolution of the Block C, because that's honestly one of the most boring logos of all time. If you scroll through all the baseball logos, the other ones that have letters in them are at least stylized. So you look at the Cubs C, it's at least it's a circular C. The New York for the Mets and the Yankees both have some specific font tied to them. San Diego Padres, the SD are interlocking. Same thing with the Dodgers and the Padres. So if you're going to use a letter for a logo, you got to put something on it. You got to make it attractive, make it interesting. The blank C bold capital typeface that they've been wearing was just boring. So I'm glad to see they went with the Diamond C. But now I'm going to be heading to a commercial break here. And in a few minutes, I'll be coming back. I'm going to be touching on the Olympics, soccer, basketball, and what is going on with Simone Biles. Welcome back to Outspoken here on All Sports Cleveland at the Ohio Media School. Now, there was some breaking news earlier today in regards to Olympian Simone Biles. She has dropped out of the Olympics. Initially is reported due to an injury, but it actually is not. There's just some mental things going on, and she's not, able to perform at a level that she expects of herself, and that would be at a certain level that would be good enough for the rest of her teammates on the gymnast team. Now, there's been some backlash from some people with, I'll refer to them as having double-digit IQs. There's also been, on the positive side, some praise for her, and that being, recognizing that she's not at a state mentally that she's able to compete right now, that things are too much. And the thing is that when things get like that for an athlete, especially on the stage that the Olympics are, it's okay to take that step aside. It's okay to make sure that you're getting right mentally. And unfortunately, some of the people on the internet decided that they were going to just attack Simone Biles for some reason. And it's funny to me because it's essentially the same type of response every time. What it is that, oh my God, I can't believe they quit on their team, or she quit on her team. That's not what being Olympian's about. This disgrace to her country. This isn't patriotic. This isn't. This shouldn't be allowed. She is someone that shouldn't be. I'm just, you get the idea. Absolutely ridiculousness, right? And so generally. Because, when you see these type of responses, it's not the nameless faces. It's people that decided that they're going to use their actual Twitter accounts with their real names and real picture. And you just take a look at them and be like, okay. You have no chance ever in your life of being an Olympic athlete, or even probably a average one. Simone Biles on her worst day is 1,000 times better than you on your best. So, yeah. It's as easy as it is just to throw stones at her for withdrawing from the Olympics. You need to take a second and realize the commitment mentally and physically it takes to be an Olympian. And attacking her over the internet, first of all, attacking anyone over the internet is ridiculous, but attacking her for withdrawing is absolutely it's unacceptable. It's not the only time that you see this. Every single time that somebody does something that certain groups of individuals find unacceptable or offensive, they decide to voice their frustration on the internet and tag them in tweets and send them hate messages. And sometimes, depending on the athlete, depending on what it is, depending on what happened, some people will be insane and send death threats to people, which is absolutely just, I can't understand the rationale behind that. But when it comes to Simone Biles, you shouldn't be mad about it. You shouldn't. I'm sorry. If she's not able to mentally do it, then she's the only person who knows whether she's not able to do that. But if she's not able to do it, there's zero chance that everyone attacking her over the internet would be able to do it either, because let's be real here, to be an Olympic athlete takes just an elite amount of mental and physical strength. And random dude on the internet, because it's always a dude, random dude on the internet definitely does not possess either of those traits. But continuing, there was a little bit of, I don't want to say criticism, or it was kind of criticism, but a little bit of surprise when the women's national team kind of came out of the gate slow a little bit. It's been a minute since, they haven't just trounced everybody by multiple goals. And they did advance. They have made it to past the group stage. They're in the quarterfinals for the Olympics. So they're still in the mix. But I saw this was another opportunity for people to be mad on the internet. Mostly some people who decided that they're just going to take all of their anger out on people like Megan Rapinoe because they don't like her. Again, excuse me, a world-class athlete can do anything and everything that some people can only dream of doing. But I saw some reactions on the internet were saying that they were rooting against the women's team, that they were rooting for them to lose, they were cheering that they lost, they were happy they lost. And it's like, really? You're really going to take this stance during the Olympics? You're going to root against your own country in the Olympics because you don't like one individual? It's absolutely insane. But they're good. They're a good squad. They're a good team. They've obviously made it past the group stage. There's still a really good chance they could come out on top when it's all said and done. But, we'll see how that all unfolds. Speaking of teams that have not necessarily been doing that well in the Olympics, the men's national team. Yeah, they are not equipped to play this brand of basketball. Not at all. They play by a different set of rules compared to the NBA. So, all the superstar calls that guys get in the NBA, yeah, they're not getting them in the Olympics because they play by these different standards. They're not getting, every foul call. They're not getting the flop call. They're not getting the imaginary hack call. Add in the fact that the three-point line is a little bit closer. Add in the fact the key is a little bit smaller. The floor is more condensed. So there's less spacing. So a lot of the things that makes a lot of the athletes so, I guess, productive, so efficient, so good in the NBA, they don't have those luxuries here. Also, you can just stand in the paint. So you can just have a guy just sit there. But what I think that the team found out is that unlike past years, when they just trounced everybody and it was like, oh, how much are they going to win by? Not, are they going to win? It was, are they going to win by 30, 40, 50? They're finding out that pure athleticism will not carry them to a gold medal like it did in years past. Because it seems like, look at some of those other teams that it was just basically they're the most athletic people there, they're the best there, so they're just going to win. Well, it's obviously not the case because they're having difficulty just winning. So I don't know what the end game here is for this team. This team is not filled with the star-studded lineups of years past. Add in the fact that they also don't have an actual point guard, that doesn't help either. But yeah, Kevin Durant's really good, but it's not like it's Kevin Durant and LeBron starting in the lineup. It's not the same caliber of NBA player that's there now currently. While they're still good players, they're obviously good, they're on the Olympic team, going back to the needing or just using pure athleticism aspect, they're not going to be able to do it just by that. They're going to have to actually start playing some team basketball. I don't know if that's necessarily a style that they're accustomed to. They basically approached the Olympics the past couple times as just a pickup game at the local gym or a park, and just been like, okay, we're just going to do a pickup game. We're not going to run anything and just do whatever, and it works because they were just that good. See how they adjust. Let's see how things go. But big yikes for the men's Olympic team. And one real quick thing, I got a couple minutes before the next break, but trying to find and navigate actually what you want to watch on the Olympics, not all that easy. I know a lot of the stuff's on Peacock, but Peacock's not the most user-friendly app out there, or streaming platform, or it takes a minute to figure it out, and sometimes it doesn't necessarily work correctly. So yeah, I have not been spending my time glued to the television to watch this Olympics, even though the Summer Olympics are not necessarily my favorite. I prefer the Winter Olympics more, mostly because of the, I guess, kind of ridiculous sports. I got really into curling in the last Winter Olympics. It was a lot of fun. Then there was the biathlon, where it's just kind of leftover parts of sports that they throw together and be like, hey, skiing and shooting, this is a thing. But Winter Olympics, I prefer over Summer Olympics, but Summer Olympics still cruising. Apparently, speaking of Summer Olympics, Japan shut out Team USA to win the gold medal in softball. So that happened earlier today. Not really going that well for the United States over in Tokyo. But you know what? Sometimes that happens. Sometimes things don't go their way. So I'm going to head to another break, and at the top of the hour, we'll be talking about some Big 12 news, and a certain number 12 return back to the Packers. And we are back here on Outspoken on All Sports Cleveland, and there was some big news, college football news. Texas and Oklahoma leave the Big 12, expressing their intentions to join the SEC. Listen, they're asking for an invitation. They'll probably get in. I would think it'd be absolutely hilarious if the SEC said, "Nah, we're good. We don't need you. We don't need your second-rate college football program into our what is supposed to be the premier conference of college football." But I look at this and I'm thinking to myself, Texas and Oklahoma are probably going to get in. Let's be real here. But I understand what their end game is. They realize they're in the Big 12. It's a loser conference. It's not one that's going to get them into the college football playoff, which is their ultimate goal, especially for a school like Texas, which, as many times as people have said they're back, it has ultimately proven to be a false start, one after another. But I'm looking like they're going to have to go through quite a tough schedule to actually get to where they want to go. Because now, instead of just beating up on some of the crappy Big 12 schools, they're going to have to play actually good SEC teams. Alabama, LSU, Georgia. Sometimes Auburn's good every once in a while. Same thing with Florida. But their schedule would be much harder. And so their path to where they want to go has gotten significantly harder. And I understand it's going to be about getting to the college football playoff, and it's going to be about dollars, because that's really what it's about. I have a hard time seeing them actually coming out the other side and them being better off being in the SEC rather than the Big 12. The competition is just so much better in the SEC than the Big 12. If they were smart, I think they should have explored possibly going to the Big 10 or the Pac-12. Those conferences actually would have provided a path to college football playoff, a path to possibly winning a national title. But going and joining a conference that's vastly superior is not the right way to go, in my opinion. So we'll see how that all works out, but I expect Texas, Oklahoma join the Southeastern Conference. Moving on. But some Browns news. Odell Beckham Jr., he passed his physical. He's not going to start training camp on the physically unable to perform list. This is good, and here is why. We still don't know how good Beckham can be here in Cleveland. I can essentially say, and it can't really be disputed, but his first 2 years have been a massive disappointment for the Browns. Okay, I understand last year was cut short, but the chemistry between Beckham and Baker, it isn't there. I don't know what happens when he's trying to throw the ball to him, but it doesn't work. It's not viable for him to throw it as often as he does. I mean, he finished last year, he played 7 games, and he tore his ACL, but in 7 games, he caught 23 passes for 319 yards and 3 touchdowns. Not exactly what you would expect coming from someone, and when that certain someone is Odell Beckham Jr., you expect a lot more. But even when he played the full 16 games, it still wasn't great. 74 catches, 1,035 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Yeah, he eclipsed 1,000 yards. He had 74 catches, but he had 77 and 1,006 touchdowns the year before in only 12 games, and he played all 16 in 2019. So I don't know what or if it's going to actually work out between the Browns and Beckham. I don't know if it's actually going to be a viable combination, but if there's a chance for it to work, it's this year. And this is the second season for Baker Mayfield and the Browns to be running this offense. Everyone's going to be a little bit more comfortable. There's not going to be all of the transition period and the difficult transition they had last year, due to the pandemic and having to do things in the manner that they did. So I believe he will have a much better season this year than he has before. But, who knows? He's an excellent player. He's someone who could be a number 1 receiver for just about any team in the league. And despite the claims of certain individuals, the Browns are not better without Beckham. Baker Mayfield's not better without him. His numbers look better. The team's numbers look better without him. But that doesn't mean they are better. Numbers can lie. And this is one of those instances where numbers lie. So having a healthy Beckham going into this season, it's going to be huge. I know he's still coming back from the torn ACL, where he's been past his physical, he's cleared, he's not on the PUP list, but I still feel there's going to be a little bit of an adjustment period. There was a video that went out probably about a month ago, and he was running a route, and he went up to catch a pass, but man, he looked stiff. So kind of concerning. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it was just okay, he wasn't ready yet, and he's going to be fine. But he looked a little bit stiff in that video. Staying with the Browns, we did have some breaking news kind of broadcast-wise. But Joe Thomas is going to be a TV analyst for 2 of their preseason games. It'll be August 14th when they take on the Jaguars in Jacksonville, and August 22nd when they take on the Giants at home. So anyone who's actually going to be able to watch the game will be able to see Joe Thomas being an analyst during the game. So that will be fun. I am a big fan of Joe Thomas. He's a very entertaining individual. And, when you can see some former Browns, especially ones who are actually really good, comments during the game and beyond the broadcast, it's always a little bit fun. But I saved the biggest story of the day for last from football, and that would be Aaron Rodgers is back in Green Bay with the Packers. It's official. They redid his contract, and he is back. He arrived in Green Bay this morning, and he's ready to go. In a corresponding move, they have released Blake Bortles. So, sorry, Blake, but I kind of expected that to happen a little bit. They have Jordan Love as a backup. I think Blake Bortles was there as the emergency backup in case Rodgers decided not to come back. But obviously he's back now, so no need to worry about that. One of the more interesting aspects of this whole series of events, though, is there was a tweet or some sort of report from yesterday. Part of the reason he agreed to come back or redo his contract and be an active member of the Packers this season was if the team brought back Randall Cobb, which they are working on doing right now. Randall Cobb has been gone from the team for 2 years, and apparently Rodgers was not happy when he did not return. Cobb he's been really good with Rodgers, and he was okay in Dallas, and Houston was, well, it's Houston, so yeah. But looking at that, it's kind of funny to see, like, do you think they went up to Aaron Rodgers and were like, what do we have to do to get you back? And he's like, give me Randall Cobb back. I want Randall Cobb back. I need my other guy that I'm comfortable with. It's kind of funny to see how things kind of sort themselves out and fall into place like that, because, I mean, I know that they have some good chemistry together, but it's like, he's like, give me Randall Cobb. It's kind of funny. The two sides are working on agreeing to the deal still, but I believe that the framework is essentially done, but they are going to bring them back. So it's going to be Rodgers and Cobb and Adams. Would have been really funny if, along with Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, Randall Cobb posted a picture with the whole Last Dance thing, because Adams and Rodgers posted that at the same time, which was pretty entertaining and led to some ridiculous debates about the whole meaning behind it, and is it really a last dance and all this other stuff. It's just a picture, people. There's no reason to dissect it and break it down to be like Jordan and the Bulls got 6 rings and all this other stuff, and Rodgers only has 1, and who cares? It's a fun picture. I mean, that's where we're at. We're at the point where people are getting all worked up about a picture. And it's mostly because of who it's coming from. It's coming from Aaron Rodgers. But Aaron Rodgers actually, let's get back to the point. Aaron Rodgers actually coming back to the team. It's a huge boost for the Packers. There was some question whether or not he would actually be back. There was some speculation he was going to retire, but he's not. This changes the outlook for the Packers this season entirely. It gives them a legitimate chance to make it to a Super Bowl, possibly win one. I don't think they'll do either. I still think the Bucs repeat, but that's just me. But it gives them the chance. It gives them a legitimate shot, and honestly, they should win the NFC North division, because that division stinks. Have you seen the Lions? The Bears are trotting out Andy Dalton, and maybe Justin Fields if they decide to go the rookie quarterback route. The Vikings, the less said about them, the better. It's the Packers' division to lose. I mean, one could argue that the Packers still could have won it without Aaron Rodgers. It still would have been a little bit more difficult. But with Rodgers back in the fold, it's like, okay, Rodgers is back, Packers, lock him in. They're going to win the NFC North. Everyone else is going to be competing for second. And it's pretty much going to be, I think, the Bears, then the Vikings, then the Lions. The Lions are a dumpster fire. I don't think they have any chance of finishing above 4th place because they are bad. But I'm sure all the Packers fans out there are ecstatic today because Rodgers is back, and he is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And they get to have a chance to win a Super Bowl. But I am going to head to a break before we go to our final segment. When we come back, it's a baseball trade deadline time, and honestly, I'm going to have some predictions I'm going to throw out there just to see, just for fun, just to have some fun with the trade deadline, see, how many, if any, I actually get right, because this, I could get all of them wrong, because that's how predictions go. So when we come back in a few minutes, but got some ads, come back, stick around. Trade deadline talk coming up after that. And we are back here on Outspoken. It's the final segment of the hour here. Getting ready for baseball trade deadline. It is coming up. And before we get into some of my predictions, we do have some news. The Philadelphia Phillies have acquired Tyler Anderson, and that's going to help out their pitching rotation. Tyler Anderson has been a solid pitcher this year for the Pirates. He's been good, not great. He's a little bit older. He's 31. He's got a 4.35 ERA, 1.2 WHIP, and strikes out about 7.5 per 9. So he's an all right guy, but he kind of adds some length to their pitching rotation, makes them a little bit more viable, and kind of keeps the Phillies in the mix for that NL East. I don't think they'll end up winning it. I still think the Mets have that division essentially locked down, and I think some potential moves they could make in the future, which is one of them I'm going to predict in a few moments, would help them basically run away with the division. But we are going to start with a little bit of news before we dive into anything here. The Washington Nationals are reportedly listening to offers for everyone except Juan Soto, which is kind of expected. The Nationals pretty far out of it. They are not necessarily a stacked team, but they have pieces that people could be interested in. So if a team's looking for maybe a slugger, they could maybe call and ask about Josh Bell. Josh Bell, former Pittsburgh Pirate, has some pop in his bat, but he's not the most consistent hitter. Some people that I would be interested in would possibly be, Brad Hand, pretty good closer. Daniel Hudson, I've seen, has got some traction in trade rumors. Looking at some other position players, you could see them maybe shipping off some of their middle infielders. So maybe someone like Josh Harrison, or somehow Alcides Escobar still plays. Team looking for speed, Trey Turner. Trey Turner could be an excellent pickup for any of these postseason teams or postseason bound teams. But let's get into the predictions, because I did not have really a whole lot prepared for them. But we're going to start off with one name I did not say, and that is Max Scherzer. I think he is going to go to the Dodgers, and here is why. The Dodgers need pitching help. Trevor Bauer is probably not going to pitch for the Dodgers again. Who knows if he pitches in baseball again? Pretty steep, pretty heavy allegations against Bauer, and apparently a lot of the teammates don't want him back. So the Dodgers got to find some way to fix their rotation. Getting Scherzer would be such just an epic move. It'd be such the Dodgers move. They're a franchise, that's not afraid of making that big move right at the deadline. Remember when they acquired Manny Ramirez back in the day, and how epic of a thing that was. So think about it this way. I mean, Scherzer can block trades to pretty much, I think, everyone. So he has to approve a trade. He will, waive his no trade to make a trade happen, but I believe it's only going to be to certain teams. I think the Dodgers would be to one of them because he wants to compete. And I believe I read something that says he wants to go west, so that would make sense. But Scherzer to the Dodgers just seems like destined to happen. I can't see a scenario where he doesn't end up putting on that Dodger blue, taking the place of the aforementioned Bauer. But continuing, there are three names I'm about to name. They're all members of the Cubs, because the Cubs seem like they're going to be in some sort of sell mode. But I think this move would make a ton of sense for the acquiring team, and that would be the Boston Red Sox. I think the Boston Red Sox are going to swing a deal to acquire two players who used to be in their organization, Anthony Rizzo and Craig Kimbrell. Anthony Rizzo would just make so much sense. They need a first baseman, and he would take some of the pressure off Bobby Dahlbeck. And adding just a left-handed bat in that lineup would be solid. And Craig Kimbrell, he has been like the best closer in baseball. He's been like the best reliever. Adding another lockdown reliever is basically what all teams are trying to do. I wouldn't put it past the realm of possibilities that Boston, swings from the fences, gets both guys, solidify their position players, solidify their bullpen, make a run for that AL East crown, and try to actually get to the World Series and win it. So I think Rizzo and Kimbrell to the Red Sox seems destined to happen. Speaking of another one of their teammates heading east, Chris Bryant to the Mets. This just seems destined to happen. It makes so much sense that it would be ridiculous if it didn't happen. Because you look at the Mets, you look at what they got. They have Pete Alonso at first. They got Jeff McNeil at second. Francisco Lindor, when he's not hurt, at shortstop. But J.D. Davis is a fine third baseman. You have more in the lineup for his bat than his glove. So if you were to put Chris Bryant at third, you would figure out what to do with J.D. Davis. But the thing with Chris Bryant is he has shown versatility. So you could put him in the outfield. You could put him in center field or right field or left field. You can put him wherever you want. Or third base. But that versatility in the National League is extremely valuable. They could swap guys. They can put guys wherever they want. They can get creative. They can put out the best defensive lineup. So maybe you have Chris Bryant start the game off in the outfield, but when the game gets close towards the end, you shift him back to third base, put someone else back in the outfield, just to solidify the infield defense a little bit. But Chris Bryant to the Mets just makes so much sense. Now, the Mets aren't the only New York team I think that's going to come away with an addition to their lineup, because I think the Yankees are going to go after one of the more coveted bats on the trade market, and that's Joey Gallo. Joey Gallo makes a ton of sense for the Yankees. They need help in the outfield, because I don't know if you look at the Yankees outfield recently, but I turned on, I was watching the Yankees play the other day, and I had to ask myself, who are these people? Because outside of Greg Allen, I didn't know who they were. The only reason I know who Greg Allen was is he spent some very unremarkable time here in Cleveland. But Joey Gallo to the Yankees does something that they desperately need. Not only is he a productive bat, he's a good bat, he's good in the field, but he's a left-handed bat, and the Yankees lineup's incredibly right-handed. Because you think about it, you got Stanton, you got Judge, you got Sanchez, you got Torres, and it's like, okay, where's the lefties? The reason why their lineup was better previously is they had Didi Gregorius in the lineup to kind of split up the right-handed bats, but it's just so right-handed heavy that someone's got a lockdown right-handed reliever, and these guys are struggling against them. They can just throw them in and they're done. Throw a lefty into the mix and it makes it a little bit more difficult. Gives them a different look, gives them power from the left-handed side of the batter's box. And you know what makes a good combination is a lefty power bat at Yankee Stadium, crushing balls over that short porch in right field. It's a match made in heaven. It makes too much sense not to happen. I think Joey Gallo goes to the Yankees. Now, this is more of a developing type of watch, and it's Trevor's story, because apparently the team I have projected him to has shown interest in him. So apparently, I'm on the right track. You can just, if this happens, you can call me Mastradamus. But Trevor's story, it seems like his days in Colorado are numbered. So, looking at the NL Central, looking at the teams that are actually competitive in that division, the Brewers. Trevor's story on the Brewers would just be a great addition for them, and I think adding that type of bat, someone who has a little bit of speed, would be a great addition to their lineup. I think with some of the other guys in their infield, he would make things a little bit better, provide some flexibility, and that's what you really need right now. Even if they aren't able to extend him past this season after the year's up, they got to go for it. This is a year when they have that opportunity. The Reds are playing great. The Pirates are the Pirates. The Cubs are in sell mode, and the Cardinals are a shell of their former selves. Take advantage of the time when you can. Take advantage of a moment when you can win the division, when you can go for it. I mean, sure, they'll probably run up against the buzzsaw that is the Los Angeles Dodgers in the postseason, or possibly the San Diego Padres, or, again, possibly the San Francisco Giants. But the Brewers are 7 games up over the Reds right now. They're 8 games ahead of the Cardinals, and the Cubs are 8.5 back. Get another bat, solidify that lineup, get yourself ready for October, because I think October baseball is coming to Milwaukee, and get ready to face whoever your opponent's going to be, and just stack your lineup as best as they can. So I think Trevor Story to the Brew Crew, a ton of sense. Speaking of Central Division, but not the NL Central. We're going AL Central. We're going Twins. Jose Barrios. I think he's going to go to the San Diego Padres. The Padres keep looking for pitching. They keep adding. I know they have a ton of guys on the IL right now, but I think Barrios would help give them that little boost that their pitching staff needs, solidify that rotation, give them a legitimate starter, and give them that opportunity to try and compete with the Dodgers and the Giants in that division. Maybe overtake, maybe win the division. But I think Jose Barrios to the Padres would be a solid add. And my final projection, whatever you want to call it, Richard Rodriguez, the Pirates closer, I think he is going to go to the Phillies. If you've paid any attention to the Phillies this season, you know one thing. Their bullpen stinks. They've been basically rotating between a couple different guys. And, Hector Neris, not good. Jose Alvarado, not good. They're recently tried out Ranger Suarez. He's done fine. But if they could add Rodriguez into the mix and stop pretending that they have the answer internally and get that external help they actually need, I think that would go a long way for them. But I'll wrap this up with, as far as Cleveland is concerned, I think they're going to listen to just about anyone on their team. I think Cesar Hernandez gets moved. I think they'll try and move Eddie Rosario as if they can actually activate him and move him. But I don't know what they're going to do with him. If some team finds some interest in Bradley Zimmer, I could see them looking to move him because, everyone always wants to have like that pinch runner for late in games. Bradley Zimmer's your guy. He's fast. He doesn't have much in terms of a bat, though, so you got to trade one for the other. Looking at the relievers, it's basically who wants Brian Shaw, because Brian Shaw had basically a renaissance season here in Cleveland. So I think some team, somewhere will be interested in his services. Blake Parker's been fine. I think some team will also inquire about him. Maybe Nick Whitgren's another guy that gets moved for, low-level prospect or whatever. Nick Whitgren's been okay. He was better previously. This season's not been his best. Definitely had some lower moments recently, but you know what? That's just how it works sometimes with relievers. Relievers can be volatile, so sometimes things just don't work, and you got to move on from them. I don't think they would move Jose Ramirez, even though you never know. Shane Bieber, that's a non-conversation. I would imagine they would entertain offers for guys like Zach Plesac or whoever, but I don't see them moving either or at this moment in time. But that is going to do it for me today here on Outspoken on All Sports Cleveland. It's been fun. We'll see how many of these predictions I got right. I'll save these to see if I get any right. And trust me, if I get any right, I will congratulate myself over and over again, because why not? Who wouldn't want to congratulate yourself when you predict things that are right? But that's going to do it for me today here. Always check out all of my stuff on thisisbelieveland.com. Subscribe to thisisbelieveland.com Real Browns Fans podcast. It is on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, SoundCloud, and both websites. You can find this episode will be uploaded to my YouTube channel that is with a Jimitude, so it'll be on there as well. And always remember to subscribe, rate, and check out my show tomorrow. It will also be here. It's a group show. It's our show. It's the So What's the Catch show. We'll be here from 2 to 4 on Wednesday talking about some of the stuff I talked about today, but a wider variety of topics, and give me a chance to give my voice some rest, since I've been talking pretty much for an hour straight by myself in this studio. But until then, have a great day, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.